Welcome to the One Rock at a Time podcast. I'm Caley.
And I'm Paul.
I have a big scratch on my face, which is perfect for the first podcast we're doing. And it's because my dog got too excited this morning and scratched her face on Thanksgiving, no less. Thank you.
He's just a big cuddle bug. He just wanted to get up in your grill.
And he did. A whole face right there. They should have casted me in Mufasa. Could have been Scar.
You could have been Scar, yeah. Is Scar in Mufasa? I assume that's his brother, right?
It's his origin story. It's Mufasa's origin story.
Which one's the older brother?
Scar?
Scar the older brother?
I think so.
Okay.
It's unclear. They're lions. I don't know.
It's been a while. I'm not sure.
Anyways.
But they're CGI animals. You wouldn't be able to see Scar.
Speaking of movies, we recently went and saw Wicked.
Wicked!
I had now seen it twice.
Count them.
And I would go see it a third time. It was so fabulous. And you can ask him, I've been dancing through life all over this house. Mm-hmm. We have seen the Broadway version. And when I say Broadway, I mean like we saw it at the Houston Hobby Center. And it was fantastic.
Was it the Hobby Center?
Yes.
I forget what everything's called.
It's literally the only place I've taken you to see plays. It's the Hobby Center.
That was at 6. That was right.
We did. And we saw the Frozen musical. That was good too.
All bangers. Like, it's surprising.
I don't like musicals. Goes and sees musicals with me. He saw Hadestown and loved it.
Hadestown was real good.
You'd love the Book of Mormon. I can't wait to see that.
That'd be a good time.
They're coming to Houston too.
Yeah. That's my type of humor.
Yeah.
I assume.
I guess.
I haven't seen it. Who knows?
Anyways, back to Wicked.
Well, we're talking about fun stuff. God, why are you rushing me? Will you just...
Maybe we do need this spit card because you just spit on me.
Maybe that's me being, passionate in my enunciation.
You've seen Friends, an episode that...
Exactly.
Yeah, don't do it.
The more you spit, the better actor you are. Is that Gary Oldman? Love that guy.
So, back to Wicked. I want to talk about this forever and ever because I love that.
It's so good.
Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande were the main characters. We have Cynthia, who was playing Elphaba. And I should warn you, if you've not seen Wicked or not familiar with any of the premise, this might have a few spoilers. We're not really going to be telling,
It's the whole story. Let's be real.
It's not. We don't tell the end.
We're going through all the main points.
Yeah, but we don't tell the end or anything or how it... But it's only part 1 anyway, so it's not truly the end. We don't... It's spoiler light. I don't think we tell, major things.
If you haven't seen Wicked, beware. You've been warned. And also, you should.
Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande were cast as Elphaba and Glinda. Sorry, Glinda. With a G. And Cynthia Erivo is a talented, she's been on Broadway several times, I believe, a talented black woman, and people were outraged when she was cast. I do not know why, because Elphaba is green.
She's always been green.
Always green. She was never white. She was never black. She was never Mexican. She was nothing. She was green. And
nothing. She was a witch.
Okay, she was a witch. I'm sorry, Elphaba. You're amazing. But she was green. Mm-hmm. And people were really upset and people were upset about Ariana Grande being cast too, because Ariana Grande is such a powerful... I was a little bit worried, because sometimes when you see very famous people in movies, you're like, all I can see is you as this pop star that you were or whatever. But she did great. I can confirm. But people are getting really outraged with movie casting in general right now. How to Train Your Dragon, people are mad that Astrid is not white because apparently in a movie about dragons, it should be ultimately super realistic and Vikings are only white.
Which we have no way of knowing whether or not all Vikings were only white.
I've never been a Viking.
I've never been a Viking.
I've never been around Vikings or a thing.
My brief foray into Google searching about Vikings, they were dope. They were all about hygiene. They wanted to make sure that women were respected, and they would go off and pillage. When something was unfair, they took it away from people. Those are things I get behind.
But anyways, the How to Train Your Dragon uproar, and it's a movie about a dragon. Dragons, plural. Dragons are not real. It's a fiction movie. I don't get what the big to-do is. I don't know why you care whether a white woman, Hispanic woman, or a black woman plays a fictional character, or especially Elphaba, who is green.
We'll go back to the dragons. Who voiced her the first time? She's a Latin American.
Yeah, America Ferrera.
America Ferrera.
She's amazing.
She's so cool.
Barbie killed it.
If they stick to the casting of the original movie, hey, look, she should be Latina. I think they're mad about the wrong things, really. They just want folks to be white.
They usually are. And white people are vastly represented in media. If you turn on the TV right now, you are represented, okay? That's not the case for every single race at all. If you're mad that people are getting cast because then they're supposed to be white, I don't even care. Shut up. We're not friends. I can guarantee you we are not friends if you feel that way.
Whitewashing is a real thing that happens a lot. And it's really part of our culture in America. We want people in power, or they're supposed to be powerful, heroic folks, to be cast as white. Because
white men in power is actually really what it is.
Yeah. And it's because our country, like, they're always said that way. The white guys look a lot like me are in power. And they built the system to make that stay that way.
Yep.
I really think casting an African-American woman as Elphaba was a great call. Because she could really connect to being discriminated against just for the color of her skin.
Yep.
In the movie, they say, look, she's green. Look, that's how you know she's evil. They made her skin green to make sure other people knew that. That's stuff that racist folks have been saying about black people forever. I remember hearing once removed family friends saying something along the lines of, black people are black because they were burned to show there were sins. Like, that's what some people actually believe. It's really, really tough. The color of our skin should not be a determining factor in whether or not we should trust somebody.
Yeah, I agree. It's harmful, and it's only serving, even if you're a white woman, literally it's only serving the white man, because at the end of the day, men don't care about you. I know you're great, but when I say men, I do mean a vast majority. I'm not saying all. I know y'all, like, some people get all up in a titty. Not all men, but it's enough that...
Yeah. Too many don't care about you for us to qualify just the small amount that do. And that's the problem. There's so many that are a problem, that are hurting people.
Well, and also with the Lincoln Riley thing happening, they're using that as like a political thing. One immigrant killed a young woman, and that's very sad. It's awful, but Lincoln Riley's family is asked to stop politicizing her death anyways. But when one immigrant does it, it's a political talking point for y'all. There are literally, I think someone said like 3,000, like there's already been like 3,000 women since that happened that have been murdered by men, and most of them being white men in America.
Yeah. It's not that an immigrant did these bad things. It is a man tracked and hunted a woman for sport that then raped and murdered her.
Yes. And there's like, we read that in a book, which we'll talk about in our next one. But in the book, it talks about, it's called Men Who Hate Women. It talks about how it's one immigrant, it's okay for it to be all immigrants are bad. Like with one Haitian, this was obviously not true, we found out later it was not true. One Haitian immigrant ate the cats and dogs. Donald Trump decided to get up and say, they're eating the cats and dogs. And we've got a funny song out of it, but really all it did was make everyone believe that all Haitians were doing it. However, you can't say when white men kill their wives, you can't say all men are dangerous or all white men are dangerous without them being like, not all men. But for one case that they are not white, you can say that applies to everyone. Or that's how the society is. Mm-hmm. And MAGA people really are viewing it. And it's crazy to me. We have numbers to show, like, you're more likely to kill me than, like, any immigrant is out there.
Number one killer of women in America?
White men.
No, white men.
And
another one killer of men in America? Heart disease. Also us killing us.
Also men, yeah. Also men. So,
number one killer of children? Guns. Gun violence.
Hellbound, mostly men.
What the heck are we doing?
Agreed.
There's a real problem with the culture in our country, and the only way forward is to talk about it.
And I think decentering, like women decentering from like men in the male gaze is really important, and it's helpful for, which I'll get into that in another episode too, but it's really helpful for not only just women, but it's helpful for men. Like getting rid of patriarchy is good for us, but it's also great for you. Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of people realize that. But yeah, so the casting was interesting, how everyone was in uproar.
Bringing it back right here.
Look at me go. So let's see.
So that really opens up there's a lot of topical discrimination that happened in this movie. And the book was written 20 years ago. The play came out, was it 15 years ago? Something like that.
20
years as well. It's been a while. When they wrote this, these types of things were still happening. It was something that was enough of a problem that they thought they could base a movie or a play and a book off
Want
of
a
these
fun
things.
fact?
I would love a fun fact. I love
The
fun
book
facts.
was written to speak out against fascism, which is something that we are approaching with the election dangerously close to the January date. We are very close to fascism, and that's why it's so topical. And it's because apparently fascists just keep coming around.
Yeah. But there's so much discrimination that's happening in this movie. You saw, we have been on this for 12 minutes. 10 of those minutes is us talking about from discrimination to linking it to 8 or 9 different things in our country.
Right
From
now.
Just the casting. We haven't even gotten into
And the events that
it.
we've also talked about are happening within the last 2 months too. Crazy. So I guess we'll get into Elphaba and Glinda are the main characters. They both attend the school called Shiz, and it's just a college. And Elphaba is talented with magic.
Well, she wasn't even supposed to go.
But she doesn't in the Broadway play and in the book. She does go to Shiz. She is supposed to go. That changed, so we don't need to get into that because it's like it's
Okay.
just a little change they made.
A little tweak.
Yeah, I found that out that it was just like a little change.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've read the book.
It's been a while since I saw the play,
Me too.
but they attend Shiz, and Elphaba has magic, and she's not very in control of it yet. But you can imagine she steps through the doors, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're green!" And she does have a very good sense of humor about it. I thought that was really,
I think that's a defense mechanism.
yeah, absolutely. But that was a good choice to put that in the movie that way.
And the first interaction between Elphaba and Glinda was great. I loved it. I'll tell you right now, I do not like Glinda. The entire movie, I was hating on.
And I can understand, and we will get into the Glinda of it all towards the end because I have many thoughts. So
That first encounter, Elphaba's green. She shows up. Galinda's fawning. Oh my goodness, I'm the best. Someone is green. And she promises someday, whenever I actually know magic, you can come see me. I will do everything I can to possibly help you. And she was just saying that. Mostly she was looking at other folks.
she wants people to think she's good. She's Glinda the good.
Elphaba, I loved this little interaction because Elphaba says, great, you've promised to maybe do something with power that you don't have, that you may not have in the future, that might be able to help. I'm sure that your promises for future possible actions are really helpful to the folks around you.
She had concepts of a plan.
Concepts. And that really irked me. Just that performative.
It's performative activism. At Shiz, there are a couple professors, but just one main one that are animals. And animals can speak in the movie. They hold jobs. They like lawyers, professors, all sorts of different jobs. And they've been in Oz for a very, very long time.
For longer than people, wouldn't it?
Right.
Or at least as long as people.
Yes. And so one of them is Professor Dillerman, and he is a goat played by Peter Dinklage. He did great.
I love that guy's voice.
And he's a history teacher. And his first class, Glinda was like, can you just teach us history and stop harping on the past? Which is hilarious. And again, topical.
And she was asking that because he was talking about how there are less and less animals at Shiz. There are less and less animals actually out speaking, not being, wild, but instead being active members of society. And that they have been dwindling and they've been effectively phased out. And that's when Glinda asked, why are we talking about this? We don't want to hear about this. Let's just talk about history, huh?
Which is hilarious. But the animals, I think, are very similar to how we are treating immigrants in this country is how they were trying to treat the animals, because they're trying to phase them out. And eventually they want to put them all in cages at birth so that they can never learn to speak. And that way they would never come to power, never hold positions of power. These animals are really being set up to be the villains of this story, not to us, but to the people of Oz. They're watching all this happen and they're fine with it because the animals are the bad guys. They need to go. They need to be put in cages. We need to get rid of them.
And that really goes to show that not only in the show, but like in our own country, there's propaganda that's being put out that we're like being susceptible. We are susceptible. We are susceptible.
That's a big word for Elmo.
But I forget the word I'm talking about now.
I'll continue then.
But propaganda is being thrust upon us, and it's really warping the way that we're seeing the
We're
world.
falling for the propaganda. Not me. Not me. I'm not falling for it. I don't think people belong in cages.
That's true. And it is terrible, the parallels there, because I may or may not be wrong, but Trump said something at a rally not too long ago, maybe in April, that immigrants should be in cages. And in more
we
than...
didn't call them immigrants.
He was saying he actually called them animals in more than one occasion.
Yes.
I want to say recently in like Michigan, like that was October or so, he was calling them animals there.
Yeah.
But he said they should be put in cages in April. Like, just dehumanizing refugees and people that are seeking help. It is not what this country is founded on.
Nope.
It hurts me. And that parallel there, that 20 years ago, when they wrote this, it was taking those folks that are clearly supposed to be immigrants and putting them in cages and locking them away, putting them to menial labor, doing nothing. In that first class, the professor, who's a goat, couldn't say Glinda whenever he tried to say Gah, just like that.
Yeah, so he called her Glinda.
And she was mad about it. Why can't you do this? Everyone else can do it. It's Glinda. Just say it. I'm sorry, Glinda. Oh my God. Say it. Everyone else can do it. And the goat actually took it on the chin and was like, yeah, you're right. I can't say it. Goats don't have the top teeth and can't pronounce Glinda. But we'll move forward.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've heard people on the news, family members, just folks, unfortunately, I am a gabber. I am one of those faces that people like to talk to.
Gabber?
Yeah.
It's a gabber.
Gab, it's like a yapper.
Oh, okay.
You used to call it gab, like a gift of gab.
Okay.
You know, old boomer talk. Anyway,
Okay, boy.
I was just chit-chatting with folks at the grocery store or whatever, and sometimes it'd be something like that. God, why can't they just say it right? Well, because English is their second language. That's why. I had professors in college, people like, I can't understand them. I'm like, well, try. It's...
You mean they have to do the hard work?
Yep.
They have to work at something? Anyways, so Elphaba gravitates towards the animals because they're both people like that have faced severe discrimination. And she wants to help them. She doesn't like seeing what's happening. And when she asks the wizard why it's happening, everyone wants someone to blame. Like, everyone needs a villain. I've been to many places, and you have to have a bad guy. You have to have someone to blame for all your problems. And that's something that we're doing in this country right now.
Something we've always done.
Yeah.
How long do you think the Republican versus Democrat debate is? X is ruining this country. Y will save it.
Right.
Y is ruining this country. X will save it.
But for the longest time, it was, we had slavery and got rid of slavery, but we still had segregation. They couldn't sit in the same places that says they couldn't go to the same places that says everything was split. Those were the bad guys. Black people in America were the bad guys. And now it's immigrants. It's also still black people and minorities and trans people. All sorts of people that are discriminated against are the bad guys. But we tend to focus really hard as a country onto like one or two groups, which right now, trans community and the immigrants. And we focus in hard on them, and we're making them the villains. Immigrants are why you can't afford eggs. Immigrants are why you don't have a good job. I've heard so many different things regarding immigrants, and I think what we're lacking the most is something that Elphaba was really good at, was showing empathy and actually trying to understand where people are coming from and why do you think these people are coming to America? Because it's supposed to be like one of the greatest countries on the world, or in the world, but I don't find that to be true. But people aren't coming here because they want, like, most people are not coming here with ill intentions. Mm-hmm. Immigrants are coming here with nothing, literally nothing, no money, nothing. And people are treating them horribly, horribly.
And I like a lot of the arguments that I hear is, well, they're bringing drugs in. Something along the lines of 87% of the fentanyl that's crossed the borders have been from white folks, not immigrants. There's cartel work that happens that they already have people that are citizens. That's not just somebody getting dropped at the border. A lot of these folks are getting trafficked. Someone is pushing them this direction.
I actually know someone that tried to. She was white. I actually know someone that tried to know of someone.
Twice, 3 times removed, something?
Yeah, because they're not in my life. I don't want you to think I let people like that in my life. But she was white, and she was trying to smuggle drugs into America from Mexico. And she was with white people, other white people. It was a bunch of white people.
Mm-hmm. And the concern that they're bringing drugs and that they're going to hurt people. Well, if we had a system that we could help people that have addiction, we don't even want to help veterans, and they love them. There's something going on that causes someone to go towards drugs and alcohol. It's we have a
mental health crisis in America.
Yeah,
but that does not mean that we shouldn't have stronger safeguards for guns. But because that's what we're just talking more mental health. That's not just the only issue, okay?
Yeah,
because some of these people won't go get mental health.
That's true. And it's because there's too many people that think that they're weak if they're doing so. Mm-hmm. That was me for so long. I just put all my emotions in a box somewhere, and I'll just, cut out that piece of cancer whenever it comes. Don't worry about that. Work for you. It was terrible. I didn't realize how bad it was. Thank you for helping me.
You're so welcome. We're going to move on to Paul's favorite character, Glinda. Do you want to say anything in regards to Glinda, or you want me to start?
I think that she was written really well, and that I saw a lot of people from my life in her, and in similar ways.
Right.
And that might be why I'm so mad at it. She sounded like, if it's just on paper, it sounded like she was trying to do something cool. But seeing the couple scenes beforehand, a couple scenes after, that wasn't the case.
Right.
And I feel like that's a lot of corporate branding in America. Yeah, we're turning pink for breast cancer awareness.
But they do that for profits.
Yes. Susan G. Komen is a for-profit institution.
Yeah, don't donate to Susan. I'm sorry, Susan. I'm not sorry.
Yeah, no. And they spend so much money on branding and on paying CEOs and board, and not enough on actual cancer research. You're a sham, and I don't like you.
All right.
Also pink, just like Glinda.
Okay, I'm going to get into Glinda now, okay? So, I have known several Glinda types, okay? Glinda, she's very put together. She's very popular.
There's a song about that.
Yeah. She's very popular. She wants to be liked. She cares very much about what other people think about her, which is a lot of people. A lot of people feel this way. And she can only give and help as much as, she can before it damages her reputation. Like, she's a lion. She's I can only do so much. I can't look completely crazy. Like when she dances with Elphaba. At first, she just sat back, but Elphaba had just done something amazing for her. And at first, she sat back and let Elphaba get embarrassed, but then she joined in, and everyone then thought it was cool, right? Because the popular one's doing it.
It took 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was it did what it needed to do, that scene. That dancing, I was uncomfortable for Elphaba. It did what it needed to do. But.
Wait, it was them two dancing, and then when the prince guy, whenever he started dancing, is that when everyone else kicked in?
No. They slowly started with Glinda.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, it was like a slow, her friend started and then her sister, and yeah.
I would pee sometime in that part of the movie.
Yeah, you did. You missed it.
I missed it.
It was so good. All right, so Glinda, when she realizes that her boyfriend Fiyero and Elphaba are really passionate about saving the animals because they save a lion cub, and Professor Dilliman, who is the goat professor, when he gets fired from his job, Elphaba is very upset. And Galinda's like, you know what? I got this. I'm going to take a stand just like you guys are. And she gets up and she's like, people, in honor of our Professor Dillman, I'm going to be changing my name from, she's like, no longer will I be Glinda, but simply Glinda. And everyone's like, you're so good. Yeah, you're so good. And she's even praised in the beginning for sharing a room with Elphaba and just being so great about it, even though she was not nice. She was not great.
It was an accident. She didn't agree to it on purpose.
Yeah, but just putting up with Elphaba this whole time. So when she agrees to, like, not agrees, she accidentally volunteers to have Elphaba live with her. Everyone's like, you're so good for putting up with this.
She was a real jerk about it.
And she gave her the tiny little space in this huge room. She was not good about it. But I know you hate Glinda. And rightfully so. She makes me really sad because I've been that person that didn't want to stand up and was scared because, for one, it's not so easy for women to speak out against men hurting us, against, like, people being awful. It's a lot more dangerous for a woman to speak up because men don't respect women. People don't want to listen. And there's such a negative connotation to be a feminist or to a woman speaking up. If a man speaks his mind, he's a boss. If a woman does it, she's a bitch. And that's kind of the rhetoric that's spread. So you're so frustrated, and I get it, and I understand, because you're like, well, why didn't Glinda just stand up? Why don't people just speak up? But it's just, you have a lot more privilege to do so than I do, than people of color do, than marginalized people do. And that's just the way it is. But Glinda, I don't want to spoil anything, but she just has a hard time throughout the whole movie actually taking a stand and actually doing the right thing. And I've been that person, but I see that so much with people that I know, women in my life, they're so labeled, like, they're so afraid to be labeled as a feminist. They're like, no, I'm not feminist. And, like, we should all be feminists, for one. But for two, like, people do that to put themselves in, like, a safer position. Or MAGA women think that if I rally for Trump and do everything for Trump and change my profile picture to a picture of me and Trump, or not me and Trump, but just Trump, if I change my profile picture, do all these things, like, I'm going to be so well liked. They're never going to like you. They're never going to pick you. That's why we call them pick-me's. Everything you're doing is helping and benefiting the patriarchy if you're not actively standing up against it. Mm-hmm. And Glinda didn't want to ruin her life or ruin her perfect idea of what she had dreamed. She wanted to be a sorceress. She wanted to marry Fiyero. She had all sorts of dreams, and she really cared about what people thought of her. And if she were to speak up against what's happening to the animals, she's going to lose favor with a lot of people because not a lot of people were speaking out for the animals. It was the animals and Elphaba and maybe a couple other people that were like, this is wrong. It wasn't a big group. And sometimes standing up, I always equate it to people when you're at, like, a function and they're serving food, okay, and food's finally ready, but nobody's sure if you can go up to the line yet, and that one person gets up. Yeah, the one person's like, it looks ready, I'm going, and then everyone follows in line. Mm-hmm. And that could happen. For stuff like this, it would have to be a couple people that, like, get up and take a stand, and then more people will follow. But that's why we have things like, that's why people being trans and gay is more prevalent. People are like, these people just want attention. These people are just, everyone's gay nowadays. No, it's just one or two people back in the day started being outwardly themselves, and that made it okay for other people to do it.
You know what's wild?
What?
In ancient times, ancient Greece and whatnot, it was common for people to be gay. Spartans used to bang each other. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the most macho race on the planet? The Spartans, who are known for, just being shredded, being really disciplined, they would bang each other. And they would actually...
Cold and lonely out there.
Women Spartans had to go through the same training. And every person in the Spartan nation was a killer.
Yeah.
And if women used to actually carry a blade on them, and if their husbands tried to force themselves on them or hurt them in any way, they would cut their face. And the other people in Sparta would ridicule and beat that fella. We should be like Spartans. Sexuality is a spectrum. It's not a one thing or another. Everyone has different tastes and flavors. And you don't have to just be straight or gay or bi. There's a whole spectrum of things you can do now.
Exactly.
There's a whole branch of the internet dedicated to people who love watching people sit on balloons. Yeah.
How do you know that?
It was on a TV show once.
Okay, I just had to clarify.
But if that's not being shamed, and to be honest, I'm sorry if you're all those people, that should be. The reason why it's so prevalent now is because it was illegal. Like, people
That too, but I
weren't
just
able to
mean-
do it.
Yeah, it was illegal, but I just mean, like, it's become more and more prevalent because other people are speaking up and other people are being themselves and making it okay for that to happen. And that's great. And that's why I think more women should speak up. And it's just like when people are like, well, why are these women all coming forward at once? Like, they didn't say anything years ago.
For this reason,
And
because of the way you're
90s
acting
and
now.
the 2000s, nobody would have believed us anyways. And I can't speak to the times before that because I was not alive. But I'm going to speak to the 90s and 2000s. It was not a world in which women were believed. We still struggle with believing women. Like the Conor McGregor thing, people are having a hard time. There's so much evidence against him. And even his fiance is like, yeah, like, yo, I believe him. How?
There's enough evidence to be found guilty without a shadow of a doubt.
Right. But people come forward because one woman comes forward, is brave enough to come forward, and then they feel safe to do it. Because a lot of times these big court cases, the lawyers, you gotta talk to other women to see if they have the same experiences. Otherwise, we're not gonna be able to do anything. And that's sad and it's shitty because one woman should be enough. It happening one time should be enough.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's not. And you women out there that are sitting there and defending men, defending our president or our future president who has sexually assaulted women, and that's not a deal breaker for you. And I will never, ever understand you. And we are not friends. We will never be friends. I do not want to be around you if you believe that sexual assault is okay. Because you do. If you voted for him, you believe that that was not a deal breaker. And that's crazy. And that's making it okay for other people to do it.
In that book that we mentioned, Men Who Hate Women, there was mass celebration on message boards where men would all the time go around and talk about how they should rape women, about how women are not people, how they're lesser beings. And one of the quotes that really hit me hard from the book, directly lifted from a message board. He's our man, the president. If the president can go around and grab women by the pussy and assault them, why can't we? We got it. This is our year. That is ridiculous. Whether you know it or not, choosing to allow that type of person to be the figurehead, it really sets the tone for our country.
Yeah, I agree.
It's dangerous. The amount of people being like allowing more sexist jokes now because that's how the president talks. It's no longer that's a creepy dude that's saying something awful. It's sounds like president.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Wrapping it back around as I do. Elphaba wants to stand up and Glinda's like, hey, you can still like go back to life and just, basically put your head in the sand essentially and just pretend like things aren't happening. And Elphaba's like, I can't. I've seen too much. I know too much. Oops. She's like, I've seen too much. I know too much. I can't just go back. There's just, as much as she wishes that she could put her blinders back on and not know that all of this is happening, she does know. And I think
use misogynist and incel terminology, she dug the red pill. Now that you see it, you can't go back.
right. And it's sad to see that Glinda can't get there with her. But that happens right now, where people are like, well, I've never seen it. I think you had a family member that's like, do you actually know someone who was harmed by the abortion ban? Women should not have to tell their stories of severe trauma for you to actually view them as people or believe that they should have rights. If I should not have to explain my traumas to you for you to be like, oh yeah, like, you know.
Because that's like a really hard thing to do. That's something that's terrible, and it's hard to go forward and then have to say prove that you were assaulted. That's like one of my biggest problems with the argument of abortion's wrong. It should only be allowable in the cases of rape and incest. What the hell are we talking about? Do they have to be convicted of rape or incest before you can have an abortion? Those processes take months, years even to come forward and get done.
And it's dehumanizing. That process sucks. Like anybody that's been to through any type of court, whether it's like a custody case, whether it's sexual assault cases, those things are not easy. I was a witness on one, and it was not fun, easy, and I was a witness, and that was hard. And it's hard. I can't even imagine what she was feeling. But
you want to take the worst thing that can happen to somebody, and you're forcing them to replay it again, over and over again, through testimonies, people cross-examining them. And then, because they're like, went through so much trauma, anything that they say that might be a little bit wrong, if they get emotional, that's actually viewed as a negative thing in courtrooms. Yeah. Oh, she's crying. She's unstable. Might not be trustworthy.
I was told I was too emotional.
Why? How? The Roe versus Wade is effectively a privacy case, right? It sets precedents to say that you have the right to hold on to your medical records, and that you have the right to privacy to do what you want without people.
Right, and now that we've overturned that, gay marriage is it could be overturned at any point in time. Once you set the precedent that you can overturn another act of privacy, all of them will fall in line. And you can look it up yourself and actually see which ones are actually connected, because Roe v. Wade was not originally, but like the first Supreme Court, I'll have to find the case and we'll talk about that later, but the first Supreme Court case for the right to privacy was whatever the name was. I'll have to look it up later. And then another one, and then another one. And those set the precedent so that when someone wanted to have the right to get an abortion and choose for themselves, like those precedents of privacy were already like there, and that's how that one was able to be. And same thing with gay marriage. I believe that was still a right to privacy as well.
And the abortion bans that are happening throughout the country are really smart. They're really picking apart how things can be how the system can be taken advantage of. Like in Texas, it's not criminal for someone to have an abortion, but civil lawsuits can happen between just any person, not necessarily involved with whoever's having an abortion. They can sue the doctor. So that's caused major hospitals to set like new policy to say, okay, we're going to go through these couple steps first to make sure that we cover our ass and we don't get sued.
Right.
And it's causing like treatment to be delayed. And it's really easy to say, well, the doctor should know laws better. Why is that law in place? If that's something that causes questions, that doctors, instead of worrying about primary care first and the health of their patients, they're worried about, is this procedure, could it be perceived as having an abortion?
Right.
Or is it life-saving care?
Am I going to get sued for this? Yeah, so Glinda is a person, many people in my life, I know so many people like her, afraid to stand up, afraid to do the right thing, thinking that, I don't think we all have a little Glinda in us where we think that we're doing enough, and we're probably not. And so I think it's really important to talk to people and believe people, first of all. Believe marginalized groups, believe women, just believe all these people, hear their stories, and come at it with a mind and a openness to actually understand and actually have empathy. And I think that's what we're lacking right now, is empathy and just common human decency. I think I've seen, since the election, I have seen some of the most vile and horrible things from not my family members, someone else's family members. I've seen some awful things. I've seen some awful things posted about people and about Kamala and and about immigrants and just women and abortion. You're actually like, I'm Christian or I'm religious and I believe in the teachings of Jesus. I just don't understand because you're not reading the right book. I'm not super religious, but I used to be, and I have read a lot of the Bible, and I think that if you just actually try to love like Jesus did, maybe you might be better off. And I believe in karma, so I believe everything that you're putting out there right now is going to come back to you. So just make sure you're putting out good. And I think now we're going to talk about, so we started this podcast because we want to make a difference. And right now the difference is we're just talking. He's having tough conversations with family members. We're talking on this podcast, and
It's not just family members.
no, it's I'm not pigeonholing you. I'm just saying, like, you are like,
Let me fly.
you're like speaking up and you're being very outspoken, and that's good. And so yeah, we started this because we want to make a difference, and throughout the podcast I hope that we're really going to be trying to do our research and educate ourselves, and we're open to suggestions, of course. I never think that anyone should have to do the heavy lifting for me or for us. It's not Black women's job to tell us how to be better allies to them. It's not gay people's job to tell us how to be better allies to them. And we are going to do our research, and we're going to find ways that we can make a difference, especially after the election. And so stay tuned. I promise we're going to, with every episode, we'll have, we're going to try to do this, we're going to try to do that. And today's rocks that we want to do are probably not going to be, there's little rocks. I think they're just little rocks, little changes. But I do want to get more involved politically. I do want to make sure that the next 4 years, like, we have a different outcome at the next election, a better outcome for everyone. But that'll get us into our rocks. I'm going to let Paul tell you what rock he has this week. And did I explain the rocks very well?
They were explained in the introduction. We can recap them.
Yeah, you should recap them and then tell your rock.
So to recap, because we've been talking for an hour, kind of a lot's happened. The way that we move mountains and to change the world is one rock at a time. That's how you move a mountain. You focus on the first bit and move it, and sooner or later, your change will be made. My rock was going to be to finish the book, How Our Mid-Weight Women, because it was haunting. I'm an optimist, and man, I would love to believe that everyone on this planet is similar to me. They just want people to be happy, live their life, and
It's not true.
I don't think I've ever wished harm on somebody. Let me tell you, to hear that people wish harm on other people on a daily basis is
men.
wild to me. To not think that women are humans and that they don't deserve to be around is terrible.
Yeah, he was having a hard time finishing the book, but he finally did, so he has to come up with a new rock.
That was a bigger rock for me. That was something that was
Huge
tough.
rock. He did not want to finish it.
I did not. It was keeping me up at night. And I normally sleep like a baby.
Yeah.
I have a routine.
No, he was having a rough time with that book.
So, my new rock this week is I'm going to try to get more plugged in. So I followed a couple of informative Instagram things, which in general probably isn't the best way to get my news, but I want to try to find either a newsletter or something, because I'm already on the newsletter for my congressman and I think Ted Cruz, who's a representative. So I'm on those two newsletters to see what they're working on.
Ugh.
I'm going to try to get plugged in on what's actually being put forth in our Texas legislation.
Did Ted Cruz let you know when he was going on vacation during the freeze? Or
I don't think that was a part of the newsletter, no.
Oh, okay.
It was, oh no. So yeah, getting more plugged in on Texas and local legislation.
We gotta start locally. Yep, you're right.
Start small.
Can I say my rock?
Yeah?
Are you gonna be bullying me? The last time I tried to tell him my rock, he said it was not rock enough. It was not a good enough rock, okay?
I couldn't smell it. It was not cooking.
You can't smell what the rock is cooking? Okay, so my rock, I'm going to start having those tough conversations. Much like you do. But I think my issues with some people in my life is more them not wanting to be a feminist and just really holding up the patriarchy. And I think I want to stand up to that. And also, I'm done pretending that your husbands, boyfriends, spouses, significant others, I am done pretending that they don't suck, okay? I'm not gonna pretend with you anymore. You wanna be delusional? Do it in your own house. Don't bring it to my house. Because my husband is living proof that though he may not be perfect, men can be good and men can be good feminists and there are men out there that don't completely suck and that you should demand more for yourself. If not, like, why are you disturbing my peace and happiness? Men should be better, and that really is the problem here is men. But I'm not gonna be that delusional friend sitting off to the side like, yeah, this is normal, because it's not. And not that I've ever been quiet about men sucking, but I have allowed my friends to live in delusion for far too long. And it's your relationship, do with it what you will, but I'm not gonna sit there and be like, yeah, that's fine. He can talk to you that way. And I think I just want to speak up more and stop allowing my friends to hold up the patriarchy and help them out. I'm done with it.
I'm proud of you. Starting those conversations is really tough. It took me years to get to the point where the people that I loved, I needed to tell them about what was going on, what was happening. Because a lot of people don't realize that not doing the worst things ever, like beating people or holding them hostage, that's the worst of it. Treating someone like a human, trying to understand them, and be able to talk about things that are uncomfortable are what you should be doing. That's the reason why we work so well, I think. And it took us a while to make that happen. I don't know how many times we would talk and I'd say, babe, I'm hurt. And both those conversations, I would misinterpret you saying, oh man, I'm hurt about this too. I thought I did something wrong.
I wasn't allowed to cry because it felt like I was turning things around on him.
And it was unfortunate because...
And I was just like, I'm sad because I hurt feelings. Like, I'm just a crier. Get over it.
Yeah. It's when someone you love hurts you, it hurts them.
Yeah.
And it sometimes feels like an attack whenever you bring those things up. If you can't talk about it, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Anyways.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, very sad. Anyways. But yeah, I want to start having those conversations. And if you've ever said, I'm not a feminist, to me, we're not friends, okay? I'm going to make sure that you know that.
Well, maybe they just don't know what a feminist is. Because I thought liberal was a swear word for a long time.
That's true. It's not bad to be a feminist. It's bad to uphold the patriarchy. That's bad. I think everyone has opinions, and that's perfectly fine. I think where it gets a little, wonky for me is when people want to intrude upon people's rights because they don't like it.
If your opinion is someone is an animal and belongs in a cage, that's not a good opinion, objectively.
Right. And like I said, everyone has opinions. I've been told before that by someone that I have opinions, and I'm like, yes.
Correct.
Yes, and that I'm opinionated. And opinionated had such a strong negative connotation to it, but literally everyone is opinionated. You have an opinion on something. You like your eggs cooked a certain way. That's an opinion.
Pineapple belongs on pizza.
It does. Sorry. I've been told I was opinionated, and I am opinionated, but the difference is I am not going to force my opinions on people, and I don't think I'm more right than someone else, and I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with people. If you think you're right, go ahead. Go argue with the wall. I don't do that. And I didn't argue with that person that day, too. They wanted it. They were baiting me. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Yeah, I'm opinionated. So are you. We're both exerting opinions right now. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so I'm just going to speak up for what I believe in. I'm not going to argue. I think there can be productive conversations. And that's what I'm going to try to do, is have productive conversations and make sure that people that are in my life are not saying harmful things about anyone. Mm-hmm. And that's my rock. And I hope everyone picks a good rock for themselves this week. And don't let anyone shame you for your rock.
Even if your rock is just making it through. Because life is hard sometimes. We're in November.
That can be a rock, but mine can't be a rock. We argued for 5 minutes. And he's like, that's not a rock.
I don't know, there's an argument.
it was a spirited discussion.
I had a critique of your rock.
And my enchiladas today.
The enchiladas were so good.
Yeah, but he was the whole time I'm in the kitchen. He's like, "Well, so you do this, you do that. Shh. Make your enchiladas."
And I did.
We had an enchilada competition. He won because he voted for himself. Anyways, our son said I did better, but anyways, that's the podcast for today. We appreciate you listening.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back next time. We will be talking about the Men Who Hate Women book, and that one's really interesting. And if you like facts and data and you want, I would say it's unbiased because it's data, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and she's very good about.
I'll tell you what, it is biased because she puts her opinion in there.
Yeah, she does. But if we could just pick out the facts that she gives, and it would be unbiased.
No, I like it. I like with her opinion because she's given firsthand accounts of being threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Like her story of
No, let's not gonna do it. Let's not do it. No.
yeah. Sometimes media bias is okay, and in an opinion piece, that's true.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. I recommend y'all all listen to it, and yeah.
In a word, haunting. Still keeping me up at night.
I'm so sorry. I have more for you to read too.
How about it? Let's give it more rock next time.
Say bye.